as you can imagine, one never thought of being an actor in an international sense. One went to cinemas and saw all these films, but they were all Hollywood with a few British films.
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to, I'm recording very low level, I just asked you to
Oh, a little high.
No, it's my recording level,
Oh.
it's lower.
Well, as I say, as you can imagine, we grew up in South Africa and in Johannesburg, and one went to cinema, and one saw Hollywood films or British films. But the thought of being a professional actor and being in one of those films, I mean, was, not, you couldn't imagine it. And how I got into Cry the Beloved Country, which was an international film, was quite by fluke, because at the time I just was starting to be a journalist, and I went for an interview, and I was refused the interview. So I went with the people who were being interviewed, and lo and behold, I was picked for a film test. I had my film test, and the next thing I knew was that I was on the short list to play this particular part. And Sidney Poitier was going to be the one to play the part originally. And they were testing for people to play his mates. And Zoltan Korda, suddenly had a bright idea of having Sidney Poitier playing a more important part than the other, and letting me play that part. So on the basis of that, I got into the film. But then I also worked as Zoltan Korda's personal assistant, which meant that I had to get involved in all kinds of things, like even finding actors and casting and all this. And at the end, somewhere towards the end of the film, he said, "I think you should try and become a film director," which was, I don't know whether it was the wrong thing or the right thing to say, but that fired me, and I said yes. And I came to England, tried to go to film schools, but I didn't have any money. So I carried on as an actor, learning to be an actor, because it was really learning to be an actor, but with that in mind. And eventually, in 1961, I started doing my first film, my first documentary, Vukani Awake, which is a documentary on South Africa. Just showing it, at the time, it was just showing the conditions in Soweto and some of the problems of Soweto, political and social. And from there on, I then moved on to make other documentaries and short feature films.